When I started this journey for me, it was, as I said, vegetarian, been a vegetarian for decades. Hadn't eaten a piece of red meat, hadn't eaten butter for decades, like barely eaten cheese.
And did you do it for ideological reasons or health reasons?
I wanted to be thin. Yeah, I was a vegetarian for over 25 years.
Were you?
And I was always anemic. And I took iron pills, and that didn't work.
For those of you who are not familiar with Nina Teicholz, she's a journalist who released a book back in 2014 titled The Big Fat Surprise: Why Butter, Meat, and Cheese Belong in a Healthy Diet. And as you can see from the title of this book, Nina believes butter, meat, cheese, and other animal products are perfectly healthy for human consumption. She believes this so much she has even dared to recently debate David Katz, a scientist slash physician. Too bad for her, she was metaphorically bitch slapped to whichever industry funded hole she crawled out of to begin with. So what do we have to say about Miss Nina Teicholz? The old lady who was once a young vegetarian got herself sick when she was younger doing said vegetarian diet because of an eating disorder, and then of course did the easiest thing she could do: blame it on the vegetarian diet and defer all responsibility away from her because, she obviously knew what she was doing back in the 1980s.
Yeah, I was a vegetarian for over 25 years.
Were you?
And I was always anemic. And I took iron pills, and that didn't work.
I wonder why she was anemic as a vegetarian. This might be a clue here.
When I started this journey for me, it was, as I said, vegetarian, been a vegetarian for decades. Hadn't eaten a piece of red meat, hadn't eaten butter for decades, like barely eaten cheese.
And did you do it for ideological reasons or health reasons?
I wanted to be thin.
Oh.
Like all girls. It started when I was a late teenager. And of course I became fat. I'm much thinner now as a middle-aged woman effortlessly than I was. I was all through my young adult years, I was 25 pounds overweight. But
because of carbs.
Yeah, because I ate a high-carb diet. As a vegetarian, you're like, okay, you go to the mess, the dining hall in college. Don't eat the meat, don't eat the cheese, don't eat this, don't eat, have a salad. And then you're starving. So then you're like, okay, get the bag of M&Ms.
So Nina was a vegetarian for vanity reasons and failed miserably at it, which caused her hunger and health complications. She starved herself on low-calorie salads and then would gorge on M&Ms and God knows what else she was shoving down that suck of hers later at night. We're talking genius Brafessor here. So as I said before, Nina got herself sick because at the time she did not know the basic fundamentals of nutrition and simply blamed it on the vegetarian diet, which is very similar to the YouTube idiots that you see today on the internet who start to self-diagnose some of their issues because, they're so smart. But if we want to cut the shit and just be honest here, these assholes are just trying to justify their bad habits, but sometimes those bad habits can really line those pockets very, very nicely. More on that to come in a bit. As a quick disclaimer, I will say that the vegetarian diet is inherently flawed due to the inclusion of disease-inducing foods such as dairy, eggs, and oils, but it is probably better than the standard American diet or the diet that most meat eaters follow. Even with its flaws, a vegetarian diet does not cause an incessant need to gorge on M&Ms or whatever junk food Nina was shoving down that disgusting mouth of hers. Starvation and malnutrition seem to be the main culprits here, but that's okay because apparently Nina has just got this on lock. She's got it all figured out. Nina knows exactly what makes people fat.
So we have been following the guidelines. If you break this down by macronutrients, you will see the same thing. Fat is down, carbs are up by 30% since 1970, and saturated fat is down by 19%, I think. So we have followed the guidelines. Stop blaming us. And I think it's absolutely true. You know, there are people who do just eat junk food. There's no question about that. But there are many, that is not all of us. Many of us have really tried, like I tried. I made my own bread. I made my own pasta salads. I did everything right. And we still gained weight and got sick. You know, those are the main reasons to explain why we have become so fat and sick. And the other one is, of course, that we eat more calories per day. We do. We eat maybe 270 more calories per day than we did in 1970 or 80. I forget the baseline date. But 98% of those calories are carbohydrates. So we eat more carbohydrates. So we don't know if the calories or the carbohydrates. I think if anybody just listened to David Ludwig's talk, I think you could say that, you know, carbohydrates clearly have some unique effect on the body that is more deleterious to your metabolism.
That right there. Now that's science. So a caloric surplus has nothing to do with gaining weight. It's just the carbohydrates. Well, without further ado, let's look at what the science has to say. According to a randomized controlled trial study known as the BROAD study, which was published in 2017, the 23 subjects who completed the whole experiment were directed to eat a very carbohydrate-rich, whole food, plant-based diet for a year. The subjects were directed to avoid all animal foods, processed foods, oils, and even high plant foods like avocados and nuts. So the subjects were advised to eat a high carb, low fat vegan diet. And oh, by the way, the subjects were told, or at least instructed, to eat intuitively and not track any calories or do any type of excessive exercise. Simply just eat a whole bunch of plants till you're full or feel satiated. That's it. At the end of the study, the participants lost a total of 12.1 kilograms or 26.5 pounds intuitively. So explain that one, Nina. How in the hell did these subjects lose all this weight intuitively by eating a high carb diet if carbs make you fat, you fucking Brafessor? But wait, apparently Nina's got the cause of diabetes as well too.
They believe sugar's like tobacco. If you eat it, you will probably, if you eat a lot of sugar, you are much more likely to get diabetes and heart disease. I mean, I think that's, if you eat a lot of refined carbohydrates, or maybe even if you eat just too many carbohydrates, period, you're more likely to get diabetes and heart disease and become obese. So, you know, but people like it.
So eating too many carbohydrates will make you fat and prone to diabetes. Well, I challenge that with this metabolic ward study, proving that even if you stuff people with high fiber, high carbohydrate foods like plant foods, you can actually reverse type 2 diabetes, or at least improve insulin sensitivity and resting glucose, and of course, plummet cholesterol levels. All this was accomplished with a plant-based diet while controlling weight and ensuring the subjects didn't lose body fat to eliminate the possibility of improved blood markers from weight loss. So, reversal of type 2 diabetes can be accomplished with no weight loss as long as a high-carb, low-fat, plant-based diet is followed. I'm still waiting to see a metabolic ward study proving a ketogenic diet or a high-fat diet can reverse type 2 diabetes with no weight loss. I have a feeling that will never come to fruition because a high-fat diet naturally promotes diabetes among many other diseases. You see, Nina, the fat you eat is what makes you fat, coupled with the caloric surplus, of course, and it is the fat that causes diabetes. Please show me one person on planet Earth that is currently a type 2 diabetic that has reversed their type 2 diabetes without losing body fat while following a high animal fat-based diet. Good luck finding that shit because it goes against human physiology. You see, Nina has this tactic where she tries to sound really smart but shows very little evidence to back up her statements, which some may say is the true colors of a true Brafessor, or at least in this case, a true Brafessor. Here's what I mean.
Here's another systematic review of
clinical trials in heart disease. They could only find that only 836 people had been tested, which is not very many. And they found that although those trials lowered your LDL, which is your bad cholesterol supposedly, it also lowered your good cholesterol, your HDL. That came down in a vegan vegetarian diet. That's a sign of your heart disease risk increasing.
So decreasing your HDL cholesterol increases your risk of having heart disease, according to Nina, but she shows no evidence to back this statement up, so I'll simply explain it here. You see, a person's HDL cholesterol reading has never been an indicator to decrease the chances of someone having heart disease if someone is already sick with high LDL cholesterol levels. It is the LDL cholesterol reading itself that matters the most, and that has been proven time and time again. Saying someone's HDL blood markers is an important indicator of someone's chances of acquiring heart disease is like saying to purchase Kino Body's workout program is an important indicator of someone acquiring a pompous douchebag attitude. I mean, come on, the two just don't have much to do with each other. Nina also likes to use this little saying here.
Epidemiology only shows associations. And nutritional epidemiology is particularly fraught because it depends on people reporting what they ate.
So she has a problem with population-based studies, yet here she is using population-based statistics to get her point across.
A couple other facts that contradict this idea that eating more plants will protect against disease. We eat 44% more plants, foods today than we did in 1970.
So apparently it is only okay to use population-based studies or statistics when it is convenient for her. Do you see the hypocrisy? If she's against population-based studies, then why is she using them as a source to get her nonsensical point across? This is probably why. She's been funded by the meat and dairy industries before, and she is financially incentivized to promote animal-based products to line her pockets with money. But that's not all. She's a liar.
And conflicts of interest is a super important topic. I do not receive any money from industry. Like David Katz, I give speeches, and I give speeches to all kinds of groups, and I just give the same speech to everyone.
Tony, you got anything to say about Nina?
Fucking Teich.
Harsh choice of words there. But it's his opinion. I guess it's okay. Right. She gives speeches to groups and she receives modest honorariums. Anyone else smell that stench? I mean, she's got her legs closed and all, but that mouth is wide open and spewing all kinds of bullshit. And you know, the United States of America has yet to see their first female president, but damn it, this is my channel. And the title of Brafessor is not and will not be limited to just men. Ladies and gentlemen, we have our first Brafessor. Nina, my dishonest little turd. Here is your well-deserved award. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed the show. Feel free to let me know what you think of the modern day Medusa. You know I appreciate every single one of you. All links and references will be in the description box down below. Please feel free to subscribe, like, hit the ding dong button. You know that whole thing with the algorithm thing has got shit all sorts of jacked up. You guys know who I am. I'm the Natural Hoaxer. I want to thank you all for watching. And please stay tuned for the next one.